It's Brian Kilmeade.
They talked to him for almost a year to try to get those documents, and he jerked them around. They finally went to a subpoena, and what did he do? According to the government, he lied and obstructed that subpoena. And then they did a search, and they found a lot more documents. And they're not even, I don't think they're even sure now whether they have everything. So they acted in a very patient way, and what they were met with was, according to the government and the indictment, very egregious obstruction.
That is William Barr, who said, I defended him with the Durham report. I saw how the Russia thing was trumped up. I thought Alvin Bragg's decision to indict the president was wrong, but this is not wrong, according to what William Barr has read in that 49-page indictment. With me in studio, Senator Marco Rubio, author of the book Decades of Decadence. It's out tomorrow. Senator, your reaction to Barr's assessment?
Well, I mean, his assessment is based on an indictment, which is clearly, I mean, all indictments are one-sided, right? They're the prosecution's case. This is the evidence. This is what we're going to allege in court. They have to prove it. And obviously, we haven't heard the Trump defense. He'll have lawyers. So I don't pretend to know what the defense is going to be and what have you. Let me say these things because I'm pretty, comfortable saying this. There shouldn't be classified information in Mar-a-Lago, in Biden's garage, on Hillary's server. There shouldn't, in Sandy Berger, the former Clinton official who stuffed it in his sock and was hiding it under a trailer back then. They shouldn't be removed from where they belong. I don't care who you are. So that's different from the indictment. Now, what is the damage to the national interest? What is the damage to the national security? There is no damage alleged in this indictment by their own government. They don't claim that it was given to the Chinese or stolen by Iran. They don't claim that. They're claiming that he did these things, but they don't care. So there's no damage to the national security. There is damage to the national security by this indictment. This indictment in a country that's already volatile, that's already polarized, is going to feel, to a substantial percentage, and not half of the country, as a one-sided system of justice in which, by the way, this comes on the heels of not one but two impeachments, 3 years that we spent chasing a dossier that turned out to be fake. Whatever's happening in Georgia is yet to come. Another grand jury that's been impaneled by the same special prosecutor out of D.C.
From January 6th.
From January 6th. What happened in Manhattan. I mean, it's just constant, right? So it's just a litany of, and it starts to feel like these people just want to destroy Donald Trump at all costs. That's what it's going to feel like to a lot of people. That's what it looks like, common sense. And then you compare it to like the national security advisor for Bill Clinton literally stole classified. He wasn't even president. He took it. And he gets charged with a misdemeanor. Hillary Clinton she destroyed a bunch of emails and did all kinds of things. She wasn't even charged. We don't know anything about the Biden thing because there was no FBI raid of the facilities and the like. So you don't have to justify.
And they brought up Hillary Clinton in the indictment. They brought up the comparison. And the comparison is actually worse because she wasn't never even president.
Well, she wasn't president. And on top of that, I mean, it was on a server that could have been hacked. But they decided not to prosecute it. And so at the end of the day, you look at that and you start to say, well, this looks like an unequal system of justice. And then you add to that all the things that have happened. But this is going to go both ways because I already see the articles. You already see them, right? Some guy wrote the other day in Slate or one of these, rags. Well, a MAGA judge. They're already attacking the judge. So this is an attack on our institution.
Judge Cannon appointed by President Trump.
Who I know and who I supported her nomination and 12 Democrats voted for. So now this is going to be an assault on our system of justice as well. So the bottom line is that this is deeply damaging to the country. And on top of everything else, this is unprecedented, right? This is a prosecution of the likely Republican nominee, the likely opponent of the sitting president, and his Justice Department brings this 17 months before the election. Not just the former president, the likely nominee of the opposition party. This is going to become a flashpoint that's going to threaten the credibility of our institutions on both sides and do tremendous damage to the country over an allegation that I'm not even if it's true, I'm not justifying that the documents were removed or retained. But there was no damage to the national interest, but there will be certain damage to the national interest as a result of this indictment.
So this judge could only be one of two judges that does criminal in that court.
Yeah, so the way that
one
court,
of two.
Yeah, there's two court judges. I mean, there's a bunch of we have a shortage of judges right now. Only two are really doing criminal cases, so it's a 50-50 proposition. And at the end of the day, but the judge will not decide the case. A jury will decide this case. But nonetheless, the attacks have already begun, right? So that's an attack on the judiciary that you're going to see, as we've seen from both sides. But especially, how many times have they gone after the Supreme Court, and encouraged people to go outside their homes and threaten these justices? I mean, a guy almost showed up to try to kill Kavanaugh. So my point is, the damage of this indictment is massive and it is certain versus something that maybe shouldn't have happened, whatever, but there is no allegation of any sort of harm to the national security interest of the country. I think you weigh that when you make these prosecutorial decisions, and they clearly did not, because the mission they were given is go put this guy away forever. And
before the
disqualify him.
election, but it's not going to be before the election. He's going to waive his right to a speedy trial, which would be 2 months, and it's going to drag out until the end of that election if Trump is to be the nominee.
Yeah, look, I think ultimately their goal, whether it's before or after the election, their goal is ultimately, as you see,
to get him out.
Yeah, I mean, if you add it all up, I mean, you're talking about putting a guy in jail for 20 years is what they're asking for. Again, they're not claiming he sold it to the Saudis or anything else. And that's the rest of his life. They're asking for a life sentence.
So they did a survey. They said, the CBS did it rather. Should Trump still be president if convicted? 80% of Republicans said yes. Overall, 43% said yes, which is basically his approval rating with the country.
But again, if you go back, and this was my point, as of 80% of Republicans, that is, let's say that's a third of the country, right? A third of the country. At least a third of the country views this as a political prosecution targeting an individual that is going to be the likely Republican nominee. They see it as political. It undermines, not only does it divide the country, it undermines the credibility of our criminal justice system and the agencies associated with it. That's the certain damage of an indictment. Again, over something that, even if it shouldn't have happened, there's no allegation of harm to the national interest and the national security. There's no...
Potentially, the theory, there is one, and they have the audio tape. Does that bother you?
Well, look, again, I don't think that those documents should have been there. And if I had been his advisor, I would have said, look, if these documents are here, we need to send them back. They shouldn't be here. This is the wrong place, and here's why. I'm not justifying any of that. But there's no allegation that he sold it to Iran or the Chinese. But here's what's most interesting to me, okay? There isn't a day that you don't pick up a newspaper in this country and don't read about some intelligence that these same people that are out there setting themselves on fire are leaking to the media. And the media will go to jail to protect those sources. And that information is actually being revealed to the public. And in that case, it's a public service that we're revealing all of this classified information. So I would argue
the 21-year-old Navy guy.
Well, on a daily basis, these strategic leakers within the intelligence community and within the government that put this stuff out there are doing more damage to the country than what happened at Mar-a-Lago. And the media is reporting this stuff, and they're protecting them. They'll go to jail before they give up their source.
Well, can you bring us...
So, that's real damage.
Can you bring us to the courtroom in Miami? We have 30 real quick. Are they ready for this? What's going to happen tomorrow?
I think so. I think everything will be fine. This notion there's going to be nothing's going to happen. He's going to show up. He's going to do his thing. He's going to leave. There's not going to be any drama down there.
Right.
That's not going to happen.
It's an important book. Marco Rubio has had Decades of Decadence, how our spoiled elites blew America's inheritance of liberty, security, and prosperity. Senator, great to see you in person.
You. Thanks for having me.
Hi, everyone. I'm Brian Kilmeade. I want you to do me a favor. I want you to click to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page. This is the only way that I know for sure that you're not going to miss any great commentary, any great news bites, any great interviews coming your way on Fox. You can get it all here on YouTube. So subscribe right now.